Hi, this is a quick video for Cecilio and everyone else in class on editing in Photoshop for maximum effect here. So I like this shot. It can get tweaked a little bit, and what I mentioned in my comment to him was to clean the lens on your digital phone camera. The lens on a phone cam gets smeared up notoriously because you're handling the phone, making calls and whatnot. Your fingers get on the glass over the lens and creates a smear, I call it, and what that does is it reduces contrast and has this foggy effect here. Okay. Couple of things. I'm seeing a horizon line back here on the far edge of the lake, and notice that it's taking an angle like this. So first thing, let's straighten that out. And to do that, I use the crop tool, and then so you'll see this dotted line around the image with these brackets, and then come out to a corner and you'll see this double-ended arrow that's curved, and then you left click and you get and hold down the mouse and you have this grid that's put on the picture. So then I'm going to pull this and eyeball getting that horizon line parallel with the grid lines, okay? And so then hit the check mark. Okay. Next. The clouds are interesting, and one question I have is, would this image be more interesting in black and white? There is always the question when you take a picture, because the camera works in color, doesn't necessarily mean you should leave it in color. So I'm going to go with black and white here. So we're going to go Image, Mode, Grayscale, and discard color. And at first blush, it looks not so interesting because now we need to go to work editing it. I prefer a straight conversion to grayscale and then building our light and our contrast with feathered selections. So just like in the video I made for Nemi, I'm going to include this whole area to darken, and I may take this into lifts, we'll see. So I took this lasso tool, the third one down, made a broad selection through here. Always feather your selection, so click Select and Mask, and then dial up the feathering to blend this selection back. Okay. When I darken areas, normally I use brightness contrast because I can darken highlighted areas without raising the contrast too much, which is a problem when you use the levels for darkening. So we'll start with that, and I like to think about this process. That was Control D to deselect, or go up here to select, deselect. You can also reselect it. Excuse me. Okay, next, this area of clouds is kind of interesting, so let's bring that in, feather it. Now, I'm going to go with levels and see, because I know I need more blacks in here too. I want to raise the contrast. I'm bringing my midtones to the right, and I'm going to do that to the whole image too. Make sure deselect, Control L, and yeah, just a little bit of reinforcement on the blacks and the mids over to the right a little bit more. So what that's doing in effect is countering the smear on the lens. Let's try a little vignette. So I'm going to grab the elliptical marquee, come to the center, hold down the Alt key, and pull diagonally. And select and mask, and feather it way back. right here there's an invert button. You can invert at this point, or if you forget to do it and then say OK, you can come up here with the select menu and say inverse at that point. So what that means is, even though I made a selection with the circular marquee, oval elliptical marquee, in inverting it, what's now selected are the outer edges. Okay, so I'm going to use again brightness contrast, darken a little more. See how I'm building drama into this? Deselect. And as I look at it now, I'm just going to make another selection through this area, which is truly the focal point. Feather it. Hide it, Control H, Control L, and bring up the light. There we go. So now we have this really cool dramatic interpretation of the beautiful clouds reflecting in the water, framed by the darkened foliage. It's a tone poem, and notice how it's, to my eyes, more interesting than the original shot, which was that. Okay. This versus this. Some basic things, but practice makes perfect, so go ahead and give it a shot. Actually, let me do one more. I'll just go ahead and do it right here. Okay, same thing. It's kind of smeary, I'll call it, because of the lens that's not quite clean, but the sky is interesting. Image, mode, grayscale, discard, flatten, and discard. And see, all the light is up here, and we need to bring more light down here. So here's a feathered selection. Let me go with levels because I do want to raise contrast. So Control L, midtones to the right. Oh, look at that. And I'm going to let the foliage get dark for now. I could bring it back, but I'm going to do that. Here we go. Let's bring some light into this area. If I hold down Shift, I can add to the selection. If I want to take away selection, I can hold down the Alt key while I reselect. Feather and mask. Hide it, Control H, Control L to bring up the light. Deselect, maybe with a little bit of the foliage here, I can open that up just a touch. Not quite that much, like that. Hide it, Control H, Control L, because I'm bringing up light. Here we go. Okay, so once again, looking at the history, it started out like this, and now it looks like that. I'm going to look at straightening too a little bit. Escape. Click, and just tilt it a little bit. So when you're shooting, do pay attention to horizon lines and parallel lines and so on. All right, here's the before on that and the after. Before, after. Okay, see you on the blog.